Can you give me an example?
Well, like I said, debanking. This is where a lot of the debanking comes from, is these agencies. So debanking is when you as either a person or your company are literally kicked out of the banking system.
Like they did to Kanye.
Exactly, like they did to Kanye. My partner Ben's father has been debanked.
Really?
We had an employee who
for what?
For having the wrong politics, for saying unacceptable things. Under current banking regulations, here's a great thing. Under current banking regulations, after all the reforms of the last 20 years, there's now a category called a politically exposed person, PEP. And if you are a PEP, you are required by financial regulators to kick them off of your to kick them out of your bank. You're not allowed to have them.
What if you're politically on the left?
Well, that's fine.
No,
because they're not politically exposed.
So no one on the left gets debanked?
I have not heard of a single instance of anybody on the left getting debanked.
Can you tell me what the person that you know did, what they said that got them debanked?
Oh, well, I mean, David Horowitz is a right wing. He's pro-Trump. I mean, he said all kinds of things. He's been very anti-Islamic terrorism. He's been very worried about migration, all these things.
And they debanked him for that.
Yeah, they debanked it. So you get kicked out of your bank account. You get kicked out of you can't do credit card transactions. But, by the way, you can't.
How is that legal?
Well, exactly. So this is the thing, and then you go into this thing of like, well, there's no. This is where the government and the companies get intertwined. Back to your fascism point, which is there's a constitutional amendment that says the government can't restrict your speech, but there's no constitutional amendment that says the government can't debank you, right? And so if they can't do the one thing, they do the other thing, and then they don't have to debank you. They just have to put pressure on the private company banks to do it, and then the private company banks do it because they're expected to. But the government gets to say we didn't do it. It was the private company that did it, and of course J.P. Morgan can decide who they want to have as customers, of course, right? Because they're a private company, and so it's this sleight of hand that happens. So it's basically a privatized sanctions regime that lets bureaucrats do to American citizens the same thing that we do to Iran.
Whoa.
Just kick you out of the financial system. And so this has been happening to all the crypto entrepreneurs in the last 4 years. This has been happening to a lot of the fintech entrepreneurs, anybody trying to start any kind of new banking service, because they're trying to protect the big banks. And then this has been happening, by the way, also in legal fields of economic activity that they don't like. And so a lot of this started about 15 years ago with this thing called Operation Choke Point, where they decided to, as marijuana started to become legal, as prostitution started to become legal, and then guns, which there's always a fight about. Under the Obama administration, they started to debank legal marijuana businesses, escort businesses, and then gun shops, just like your gun manufacturers, and just like you're done, you're out of the banking system. And so if you're running a medical marijuana dispensary in 2012, like guess what? You're doing your business all in cash because you literally can't get a bank account. You can't get a Visa terminal. You can't process transactions. You can't do payroll. You can't do direct deposit. You can't get insurance. Like none of that stuff you've been sanctioned, right? None of that stuff is available. And then this administration extended that concept to apply it to tech founders, crypto founders, and then just generally political opponents. So, yeah, so that's been like super pernicious.
I wasn't aware of that.
Oh, 100%. And this is called, so it was Operation Choke Point 1.0 was 15 years ago against the pot and the guns. Choke Point 2.0 is primarily against their political enemies and then to their disfavored tech startups. And it's hit the tech world like we've had like 30 founders debanked in the last 4 years.
Really?
Yeah. It's been a big recurring pattern.
30.
This is one of the reasons why we ended up supporting Trump. It's like we can't live in this world. We can't live in a world where somebody starts a company that's a completely legal thing and then they literally like get sanctioned, right, and embargoed by the United States government through a completely unaccountable, by the way, no due process. None of this is written down. There's no rules. There's no court. There's no decision process. There's no appeal. Who do you appeal to, right? Like who do you go to get your bank account back, right?
God.
And then there's also the civil asset forfeiture side of it, which is right the other side, and that doesn't happen to us, but that happens to people in a lot of places now who get arrested, and all of a sudden, the state takes their money.
Yes, but that happens to people if they get pulled over and they have a large amount of cash in some states.
Right. Or, there've been, there's well-publicized examples of there'll be some investigation into safe deposit boxes. And the next thing you know, the feds have seized all the contents of the safe deposit boxes, and that stuff never gets returned. And so it's this, and this is when Trump says the deep state, the way we would describe it is it's administrative power. It's political power being administered not through legislation, right? So there's no defined law that covers this. It's not through regulation. Right, there's nothing you can't go sue a regulator to fix this. It's not through any kind of court judgment. It's just raw power. It's just raw administrative power. It's the government or politicians just deciding that things are going to be a certain way, and then they just apply pressure until they get it.
So what happens to those 30 tech people that you know.
Start to go into a different field, like try to do something different and try to get,
complete upending of your life.
Yeah, complete upending of your life, and try to change your life. Try to get out of try to get away from the eye of Sauron. Try to get out of whatever zone got you into this, and keep applying for new bank accounts at different banks, and hope that at some point a bank will say, oh, okay, it's okay. We've checked and it's now all right.
Whoa!
But there's no.
So what do they do with their money? Like, what happens?
You go to cash.
You go to cash.
You can't have a
So where do you?
All right, Shalom, it's your brother Yonathan. All right, first and foremost, I want to give all praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakah HaKodash. I want to give the honest apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. I want to say Shalom to all the brothers and, of course, the few sisters who are pursuing this truth in sincerity. May the blessing of election be upon your house. Now, this past weekend at class, we spoke on Hanukkah. We spoke on our deliverance from Egypt and how there's going to be a great time of persecution, Jacob's trouble, that we too are going to have to go through in our time. And we can look back to those accounts to have a greater understanding on how we should navigate our test, the last test before the kingdom of heaven is established upon the earth. Now let's go to 2 Maccabees, the 6th chapter. And we're going to start here at the top. And this is in the GNT. It says, not long after that, the king sent an elderly Athenian to force the Jews to abandon their religion and the customs of their ancestors. Now, in the clip that I showed you, you could see that the foundation is being laid to oust anyone out of society who does not agree with the status quo, to oust anyone out of the society who is not willing to bend the knee and to observe Esau as their God, to observe his infrastructure, to worship the beast. Okay? Anybody who's not down to worship the beast, he's setting up the foundations to where this person can be completely ostracized from society. Okay? So yeah, they're doing it to people like Kanye, or people in particular tech companies that, have particular information that they spill. But it's really geared to completely break our people down so that they can have dominion over the children of Israel, so that they bend the knee and take that chip. Taking that chip is giving dominion of your soul over to this man, becoming a new creature in his image. So if he can do that, then he can nullify the prophecy, nullifying the prophecy of him going into captivity under the nation of Israel. Nullify the prophecy of him being put out of the earth, pursuing the Obadiah 1 and 18. That is the goal. That's always the goal. His motivations always encompass, trying to get that blessing back that he gave up. All right? Verse 2 here in 2 Maccabees, the 6th chapter, in the GNT, it says, he was also to defile their temple by dedicating it to the Olympian god Zeus. The temple on Mount Gerizim was to be officially named Temple of Zeus, the god of hospitality. So back then we had a physical temple that we dwelt in, right, that we could go to. Now we're the temple. So he wants to defile the modern day temple, which is the people. And he can do that with that charagma that Mark in Revelation 13 and 16. Okay, as the people who lived there had requested. The oppression was harsh and almost intolerable. Gentiles, this is actual other, people of other nations. Now, often the time in the New Testament, when it's using the word Gentiles, it's talking about Israelite foreigners. But here it's actually talking about people of other nations, of a different bloodline. All right, verse 4 again from the top. Gentiles filled the temple with drinking parties and all sorts of immorality. They even had intercourse with prostitutes there. Forbidden objects were brought into the temple, and the altar was covered with detestable sacrifices prohibited by our law. It was impossible to observe the Sabbath, to celebrate any of the traditional festivals, or even so much as to admit to being a Jew. And this is the conditions that he's going to bring upon the earth. Except this time, the Lord's going to offer a miraculous escape. So miraculous that it's going to outdo the deliverance from Egypt. Now remember, These conditions, this environment that this devil is going to be given the authority to create. Because remember, ultimately the Lord is in control. But this condition, this environment that's going to come upon the earth, it's going to get to the point to where it's under the threat of death to believe what we believe. This is a part of counting the cost of what we're a part of. All right. But knowing that, we do understand that death isn't final. Death isn't losing for us, which is so empowering. When you think about it, you understand that this devil can do nothing to you unless the Lord allowed it anyway. And if it is in your lot to die, right? Remember this, 1 Thessalonians 4:16. There will be a shout of command, the archangel's voice, the sound of God's trumpet, and the Lord himself, Yahushua returning, will come down from heaven. Those who have died believing in the Mashiach will rise to life first, and that's everlasting life. Again, we cannot lose if we stay the course. All right, so we got to read this because it's brought up, and we're going to bring it up. As a man of the Lord, you're supposed to prophesy. Okay, you're warning the people of the things to come. And the mark of the beast is something that's in the foreseeable future. So we're going to bring it up as much as possible. Okay, and if your teachers aren't going into this, that is a red flag. The mark of the beast is very serious. You're going to be confronted with it to be able to function within society. Okay, and something, when you go to the 14th chapter, you can't repent from it. That's a big deal. All right, Revelation 13:16. Okay, it says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, meaning regardless of your socioeconomic status, you're going to be confronted with this decision. It's a decision that you have to submit unto. All right, to receive a mark, and that word is charagma. Okay, and we'll go get it even. All right, it's Strong's G5480, and it's charagma in the Greek. All right, it says a scratch or etching, okay, as a badge of servitude, okay, meaning, hey, I'm serving this man instead of Yahweh Shem Yahshua. But let's get these definitions down here. It's a stamped and printed mark of a mark stamped on the forehead or right hand as a badge of the followers of the Antichrist. Just like it. And we know the scriptures say that there are many Antichrists, correct? Okay, the mark branded upon horses in the ancient world, and even today, if a husbandman wants to take ownership of something, he'll often brand it. All right, in the ancient Roman Empire, they would tattoo who your owner was on you, whether it be on your forehead or whatever, And in this time, they want to put something in you. They want to defile again that temple. We are the temple now. So they want to defile the Lord's temple again. Then carved, sculpture, graven work. So something to be put in you physically so that you could be able to function in society. It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save that he had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. This is a big portion, the buy or sell. This isn't talking about something spiritual. And it's, you got IUIC, they never really go into this part. They never explain it thoroughly. Okay, you're going to need this physical mark to be able to function in society. If you can't buy or sell, you can't pay for a place to stay. You can't pay to put gas in your vehicle. You can't pay to get food. You can't sell anything to get the funds that you need to function within that society. So by this is how the devil plans to get everybody, all people, to bend the knee. But specifically, he wants the nation of Israel, the people who are promised to overthrow him in biblical prophecy. All right, so I wanted to run that clip for you guys just to further add on to, hey, they're setting the foundation for that hour of temptation. And this is an opportunity, this grace period, to build your faith up with reading, with rehearsing the righteous acts, okay? With giving your time to the Lord, you taking those steps towards him taking those steps towards you, and building up your faith. So during that time, you have the gumption to fight that good fight. So I'll leave you with this. This is Revelation 2:10. It says, fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried. Right? And ye shall have tribulation 10 days, a complete amount of time. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to give all praises once more to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Ruach HaKodesh. I want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught us his truth and were well. I want to say shalom to all the brothers and, of course, the few sisters who are pursuing this truth in sincerity. All right, may the blessing of election be upon your house. Shalom.